Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to Being on Stage, the only podcast that gives you motivation, inspiration, and confidence to be better on stage. No matter how you entertain, sing, dance, band, comedian, public speaking, MC, drag, burlesque, performance art, or street performer, this is the show for you. Hey rock stars, welcome to the Being on Stage podcast, and for some of you, welcome back. Thank you for subscribing. I am Reggie Dawson, entertainer and stage performance coach. Love everything about being on stage, performing on stage, all that good stuff. One of the things you need to know about me is I get my message and my teachings and my coachings from all sorts of different areas. This one happens to be coming at you from Hollywood. Actually, I don't know where this movie was made, but it's called Rookie of the Year. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty cool. It's made in the 90s. It's about a kid that plays baseball, Little League. And, you know, me, I played Little League as a kid. Had the dreams of being in the big leagues, you know, T-ball. Played the one where they threw the ball through the machine at you. Got all the way up to B-League, and then I played in a couple of other independent leagues. And it just, you know, it never worked out. I got afraid of the ball. But I still love going back and watching all the sports movies, especially the baseball movies. Never really a fan of watching the game being played, but I do like the movies about it. Rookie of the Year, one of my all-time favorites. So the kid plays Little League. He gets into this little accident. He falls or whatever trips on a baseball, falls, cracks his shoulder. When his shoulder heals, the tendons or the ligaments heal super, super tight. So he ends up with this amazingly powerful throwing arm. I think they clocked him at 102 miles an hour pitching. And even if you're a professional baseball player, you know, 102 miles an hour is insane. That is insanely fast to be able to throw the ball. So he actually gets invited to play for the Cubs in the majors, hence Rookie of the Year. So 12 years old, this kid. This is not a true story. I mean, it's completely fabricated. I'm just telling you about the movie. So, you know, like you could imagine, 12-year-old kid playing for the majors, first time on the mound, he is freaking out. And much like we do, you know, first time on stage, and sometimes not only just the first time, you know, sometimes we get really bad nerves before we go on stage, every time we go on stage. I mean, still to this day, before I go on stage to make announcements, if I'm when I'm emceeing an event or if I'm emceeing a party or anything like that, and before I go on stage to that first initial greeting and making of announcements and everything, you know, I still get the nerves and everything. So it's not just for newbies, but especially when you're new. So if you're new and you don't really perform a lot on stage, you're not alone. Everybody goes through this, okay? So this kid, terrible butterflies. How you would expect a 12-year-old to throw a ball in a Major League Baseball game, it's pretty much how he did it. So one of the guys that was working with him on the team, Chet Steadman, played by Gary Busey, he comes out, talks to him on the mound, and he tells him this story about how he has to use his have to. You have to deal with your fear from your have to, and that's where the fear lives, and you have to use that to get past your fear in order to win or in order to succeed. And for years and years and years, you know, and actually as he walks away from the mound, he's like, what in the heck was I talking about? Where did I come up with this have to thing? And then the kid is like, what in the heck was that? But, you know, somehow it clicks. You know, a pep talk is a pep talk, and sometimes all you need is just a few kind words from someone you look up to or someone that you can relate to. So a pep talk's a pep talk. So it ended up working out. The kid throws a great game, and then it goes into the montage of great games, how he just throws and throws and throws and amazing arms and blah, blah, blah. The rest of the movie plays out. My focus is that speech that Gary Busey's character, Chet Steadman, gave this kid on the mound, the have to. You know, he comes out there and he says, what are you doing out here, kid? What are you doing? And the kid's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And then he tells him he has to deal with it from his have to. No one knows what a have to is. I still have no idea what a have to is. But I was watching it this weekend, and I got to thinking and everything. I actually just finished watching it not too long ago, and I finally put together what I believe the have to is. Okay? We all have these fears. We all have distractions. There are tons of things in our lives that keep us from our dreams. There's tons of things in our heads, not even in our lives. If you take everything out of the equation, forget your job. I know it's hard, but forget your job, you know, forget the wife and kids, not literally, just for the sake of this podcast. Forget everything you have going on in your life. If you're going through a tough time financially, you got family drama, you got friends drama, forget all that for a minute. There's probably still stuff in your own head that gets in the way of your dreams. Your own fears of what's going to happen. What are people going to say? How is this going to result? Are you going to be laughed off the stage? Are you going to be laughed at before you, just for thinking you could get on the stage? I get it. I've been there. I was the fat kid in school. And, when I was going out on stage for the first time, I didn't even want to be out there. Like, I had all these fears, because all the fears of being made fun of and poked fun of and being called names and, laughed at lunch just because I'm eating my lunch. The same lunch that everyone else is, but, the fat kid's eating. All this stuff comes flooding back. I get it. We all have our own fears too. But we have to deal with it as if we have to do it. And that's kind of where I'm going here, okay? Your dreams, if this is something that you truly want to do and you dream about this, it's not just about setting it as a priority, because you can prioritize and you can be super, super good at it. Listen, you can be like the best baton twirler on the frickin' planet, but you just have this debilitating fear of doing it in front of people. And that's what we need to get past. That's where this have to comes in. You have to deal with your fears of performing, and you have to deal with we can cut this and put it into any mold. You can deal with this when we're talking about motivation, when we're talking about procrastination, we're talking about priorities, or when we're talking about fear. Okay? So this is across the board. You have to. Okay? So if you're feeling unmotivated, if you're feeling fearful, treat this dream, this passion, as if it's something that you have to get done. Yeah, you know what? We all have jobs. We all got families. I get that. But this is still something that you have to get done. Because if I told you, hey, you can't go to work today, you got to do this other stuff, you'd say, no, I have to go to work. You treat it as something you have to do. If I say, hey, don't go to work today, you're gonna stay home and play with the kids. Or, hey, don't play with the kids, you gotta do that stuff from work. But it's something you have to do. You have to play with your kids. I hope you see that as a priority. You have to go to work. You have to get that stuff done for the boss. But what about your dream? What about your passion? Do you treat that as something that you have to do? Or when you're burnt down and just done with the day, you just sit down and binge some Netflix? I've done it. I still do it sometimes. There's days where I'm just like, I'm tapping out. I'm going to bed, I'm watching Netflix, whatever. There's days where you're going to be done. I get that. But your dream is something that you have to do. You have to deal with this situation from your have to. You have to use your have to. So here's my question. What if I told you, starting tomorrow, you can only provide for yourselves, support your family, using your dream or your passion, using the thing that you want to do on stage? Would it change how you think about life? Would it change how you think about the things that you want to do? Would it change the actions that you take? I think it would, because it would for me. And I think we're all human, I'm not some super powered have to guy. I procrastinate, I put stuff off, I binge Netflix, but we got to deal with it from our have to. These dreams that we chase and these visions that we see for ourselves, they can absolutely 100% come true if we treat it as if we have to make them come true. If that's something that you had to do to support yourself, is that something you had to do to support your family and provide for your kids, and you had no other options, I'm talking there were no jobs on the market, the only jobs listed out there were for, let's say you're a juggler, fire spinner, acrobat, those are the only jobs listed. That's it. You're going to have to perform in order to make it. Would it change how you do things? And if your answer is yes, then you have to enact your have to. You got to start using your have to. And that's exactly what it is. It is the fact that you have to do this. You are always going to make time for the things that you have to get done. Those priorities, those things that, if I don't pay the electric bill, we're not going to have lights. If I don't pay the rent, we're not going to have a roof. If I don't pay the car payment, not going to be able to take little Jimmy to school. You have to do those things. What if your dream was one of your have-tos? What if that was something that you had to get done? If you treat it that way, your dreams will start to become your reality. Deal with your life. deal with your dreams from your have to. And watch Rookie of the Year. It's a pretty good movie. Listen, I've made some new commitments to myself, making new commitments to you guys. I have to keep making these commitments over and over and over and over and over again. And the have to is one of my commitments to you. This podcast, this coaching, this training, this is something that I have to do. 100%. I have to do this. Not just for you. I have to do this for me too. This is my dream. This is my passion. So let's all turn on our have-tos, jump on iTunes, rate and comment on this podcast, click subscribe, and keep on shining.